well. And Nashville, in its little circle, doesn't necessarily take care of the artists the way they should. And I have no problem saying it loudly.
Can I
Uh,
interrupt for a second?
Certainly.
And I apologize, but I just gotta say I've been to Nashville twice,
Yes. Okay.
and one of those times was a venue that I was a part of,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to say I agree with you. My first impression of Nashville is uh, they're not good to the artist. I don't get it. I mean, they're known for some of the greatest artists out there, but yeah, at the same time, it's like it's almost like you got to bow down to them.
It's problematic. Yes, you're correct. And I will probably be shot in the foot for having said this, but if you're a business person and you're a musician, because you have to be both when you're in this moment. And so how am I going to learn to negotiate my worth as a musician? If a bar owner is going to ask me to play, and they're going to say it because there's so much talent here, you're going to have a lot of tips and so on and so forth. So forget tips for the moment. How am I going to learn to negotiate my worth if you're going to pay me $50? I'm sorry, not just me, myself and the entire band. That's $50, a stipend, 75 if you're really lucky, for 4 hours of work. And this is what the outside world does not know. $75 go high, $75 for 4 hours worth of work. That means that if I happen to be the vocalist, I'm going to ask somebody else to take over for me for about, 3 to 4, perhaps 5 minutes to go to the ladies' room. You've got 4 hours of solid work. That's not break time. That's for $75, guys. That's the entire band. And if you're not part of the band and you don't understand what a load-in looks like, loading in all of your equipment's a little challenging. Paying for parking, a little challenging. These artists they're creating your evening. They're giving you 4 hours of extraordinary fun, whether it's fun or whether it's covers, whether it's their individual music,
It's entertainment.
interspliced with covers, whatever entertainment it is. They're giving you a moment to let go of your life for 4 hours. And they are depending, believe it or not, on your tips. So when that tip jar goes around, that's no joke. That's not funny. That's not ha ha ha. We hope you give $1. That's their ability to pay their electric bill. And so I have a difficulty in Nashville because I love what they do for their artists, but at the same time, you cannot give me a lot of the bar owners down. I'll just say downtown, say, well, there's so much talent, you get the opportunity to show your stuff. That's not a great way to teach people how to negotiate their worth. And that's where I really sit on that. So I love Nashville. Don't get me wrong. I've had a lot of wonderful things happen in Nashville, but I will say that, or let me flip that around. Josh Brown from Outlaw Nation. He's a producer from Outlaw Nation, and he has booked me on Southern Rock Revival Concert Series. He is the one who has believed in me, and it's always outside of Nashville. And no disrespect to Nashville, because there's incredible talent here, but it seems that they have a better ability outside of Nashville.
Well,
So
here's the thing. I don't think it's not anything about disrespect to Nashville, but I think what you talked about needs to be talked about more because, all right. So I mean, again,
yeah,
you artists, yeah, they're the new
and be open, Rick. There's no shame in my game talking about it. I'm not afraid of anything that comes back at me on this one because I've lived this one for about 8 years now. So trust me, no fear here.
Well, I guess what I think is this new generation, they just don't understand things. I mean, music is so easily accessible nowadays. The internet made so many things just possible, and I don't think people nowadays understand that independent artists, it's not like what they're thinking their parents went through in the 80s where everybody's just getting on stage and, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Artists are they got to be business savvy because it is a business. They're not just up there. And as you mentioned,
completely different.
You have yourself and a whole band to worry about. You got a crew for setup and moving in and out.
And nobody's thinking about that. And it's okay because you're the consumer and you're listening to music and it's making you feel something. And maybe it's your wedding day, right? Maybe it's your anniversary. Maybe it's your birthday and you're feeling something. Maybe you dialed up something from 1975. Maybe you dialed up Joni Mitchell. Maybe you dialed up some James Taylor. But that world was different. And pardon me for interrupting you, but that world was different because it wasn't so video oriented, right? That was just music oriented. And it was when people were willing to pay for a record. Okay. Nowadays, people are not willing to pay for the music that colors their life, that changes their life. And it aggravates me tremendously because I'm an artist and I pay for musicians. I'm also a fitness instructor during the day. And trust me when I tell you, I pay for the music that I play in my classes because it's important to me. It's important to me to give back to the people who are giving to me. And maybe it's just that people don't get it or they don't know it or they haven't been told it. But yeah, as artists, we really want to be artists and give you everything emotionally that you need because quite honestly, this is a crazy world we live in today. Oh, it's uncomfortable. You wake up in the morning and darn it all, you're darn uncomfortable. You sit, maybe for a vast majority of people, you're sitting there for an hour going, oh, please let me go back to sleep. Please let me go. But your mind is spiraling. Maybe at night, you're just trying to listen to meditation music, whatever you can do. Music, again, to unwind your brain because maybe you owe too much but music is there to help you. Yet we won't pay for the musicians anymore. And I know so many musicians, Rick, who can't even pay their electric bill, but they're incredibly talented. They're so extraordinary.
And it sucks. And it truly does. And we always say one of the best ways that you can support these artists is by purchasing their music. Because, I mean, again, that's a whole nother aspect of the business. I mean, you got the studio time, the CD, the CD art. I mean, there's so much tied into that. I mean, that's a whole nother.
Wait, do people even know what one song costs, Rick? Do they know?
I would say 97% no.
Okay, so let me just throw it out there so people can hear it. Just for one song, and this is without me paying for the band because my band is extraordinary and they were in it to win it with me. Just the studio time, and this was calling in a lot of favors. Calling in favors was $300. Usually one song costs $1,000.
Wow.
And that's a lot of money to say, hey, you guys, I want you to feel what I feel. And the reason I bring it up is it's less about me and my music, and I love my music, and I love what I do, and I have a good time, but it's more about America and really the world and listening and going, wait a minute, oh my God, I didn't even think about the fact that, these people they're on the line.
It's this is what we're trying to do, Kat. I mean, you, the other artists, us, other podcasters like us. I mean, that's our mission here. We want to spread the word, make people realize, there's a lot more than heart and soul that goes into it. Unfortunately, we live in a world where everything costs.
Yeah.
And that song that you paid $1,000 to get out there.
Yeah.
Now you've got it on iTunes for 99 cents.
Exactly.
Right. So right, and then
which we see 30 cents of.
Exactly. And then by the time that you give away downloads, whatever the case may be. All right. So there's a ton of followers that are now getting it for free. So we always say the best way, purchase the music. That's what helps fund that next great inspiration.
It is, but also get in touch with them. Get in touch with these musicians and talk to them because believe it or not, they are actually they're answering you on Facebook. These are not just not all of them have managers who are answering you. Some of them do, but not all of them do.
We see a lot of artists that are great about that. But that's a good point. At this stage of the game, how important is it to keep, kind of a connection with those who are taking the time to follow you?
Huge. Matter of fact, I can't tell you how many people talk to me about panic disorder, talk to me about fitness, talk to me about music. It's hugely important to me. Why? Because I know that what you're going through is what I'm going through. And I don't ever take that lightly. I don't ever go to bed at night and think, you know what? Oh, hoorah, because I'm successful in what I do. I look at it, and when people email me, I email them all the time. I always email them back. And it may not be within a day, but it may be within a week. Because it's important. Why? Because your emotions and what you're going through are similar to what I've gone through. And I don't want to ever leave somebody high and dry going, hey, that's a performer who's just like everybody else. And I won't say that just about myself. I know a handful of people in Nashville and beyond who are great performers, and they'll give you the same type of love back. And they're writing songs that are just amazing. I've got some harmony vocalists, Rick, that I am so insanely lucky to have them as harmony vocalists. I've got Jason Eskridge. I've got, Lo Carter. I've got Javaria Porter. I've got April Rucker. These are people who are incredible vocalists just on their own.
Well, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to say on the flip side of that, though, now the fans, the diehard fans of these artists, also got to understand that as much as you do want to keep that connection, that you got kind of a life going on too. So it may take you a minute or so to get back. It may take you a day or so, but
agreed.
You know what I mean? Fans. All right, they love you. These artists love your support, but you also got to understand they're not sitting in front of a Oprah on the CPU just waiting to answer.
As much as we'd love to, what we're trying to do is make sure that the band is paid for, which is really interesting. And I want to say it again: we want to make sure our band is paid for, and most people don't get that. I have 10 people in my band who I love dearly. They are incredible. They've done incredible work for me. And then I have a certain group of band members who have been my studio performers. I want to make sure they're paid for. So I've got to make sure that whatever I do every day is to make sure that they're taken care of. Like, for instance, Lee Sklar, Dean Parks, Herman Matthews, they are in Ned Albright. They are my studio. They're out of LA. They're icons. They're extraordinary. They're not free. But they're extraordinary, and I love them.
And that's what makes the whole thing. It makes it such a tough situation because, I mean, at times you got to think to yourself, in a way, this is kind of like a really, really expensive hobby. If we can't get people to buy the music, if we, if I can't manage to keep my bandmates happy, or just things happening from a business aspect, then it just becomes like this really, really expensive hobby. It becomes something that you love to do and don't, just desperately don't want to give away.
Or maybe it is my hobby. Maybe when Hank Brown, and I'm going to name these people because Rick, this is important to do. Hank Brown is my music director, and he's a keyboardist. He's extraordinary. Jason Cohen is my drummer. He's young. He's awesome. The reason I say he's young, he's straight out of school, but he's insanely talented. Darius Salazar is my bass player. Zach Patton is my guitar player. Braxton Nicholas he plays incredible sax. Adam Smith is on trumpet. April Rucker, Jason Eskridge, and Javaria, who I mentioned before. These are people who play every time I need them. They're extraordinary people, and they have to keep the lights on, and they have to keep their world going. But when we're on stage, we give every piece of energy we possibly can so that you can feel something. And it's tremendously important to me to share, not just as a hobby, certainly not just as a hobby, but I get what you mean by that.
Okay,
because,
thank you.
By all means, no, Rick, trust me, I get it, because at the end of the day, it looks like a hobby when we're suffering to pay everybody. to do what they do, because everybody on the outside doesn't know. And so I'm not going to knock everybody for this. Listen, the recording world isn't what it used to be, right?